What's going on, everyone? Thanks for popping into the show. Lake Show Digest, as always, I'm your host, Mateo. We're recording this on a Thursday afternoon. The NBA trade deadline passed a little over 3 hours ago. If you're a fellow NBA degenerate like me and Jonathan here, you've been hooked onto Twitter or SportsCenter updates like it's the finest heroin over the last 48 hours. The Lakers have looked like garbage, especially these last two games in particular. A massive loss to Milwaukee Bucks, where Milwaukee honestly didn't even look like they broke a sweat. They were up 30. We had a fake comeback by like 20. But the moment we got it down to 10, they just kind of pushed us away like little brothers. That was followed by a pathetic defeat at the hands of the Portland Trailblazers, who traded CJ McCollum, who sat Damian Lillard. So we essentially lost to Anthony Simons and G League guys. All that plus cryptic press conferences by LeBron, Russ, and even Frank Vogel, who's getting in on the little cryptic press conference action. So you could say the chemistry is a little bit in flux with the Lakers. But in light of all this, there's been endless trade deadline speculation. Are the Lakers going to get a Russ deal done? Are they going to make moves on the margins to improve role players? And to the shock of most people, they ended up making absolutely zero moves. This is the team they're rolling with. This team hasn't shown us any consistent level of effort. They shoot themselves in the foot more often than not. They're coached by a coaching staff that seems to not want to. They just give into their worst impulses too often. But I'm really happy I got this guest with me today. Today we've got Jonathan Kiernan, Ireland's finest, managing editor with Lakers UK, contributor at Lake Show Live, Sir Charles in Charge. Appreciate you coming on with me, man.
Yeah, anytime at all, man. Like anytime you get to speak basketball, it's a good time. So yeah, I'm absolutely delighted to come on.
Yeah, I was happy to have you on too, because you're pretty knowledgeable about the cap. I think you've definitely done your due diligence. You've probably actually read the CBA, which is rare for most people. I tried reading it and it put me to sleep. But yeah, I'd love to hear, how have your thoughts evolved over this trade deadline?
From a light perspective for a Lakers fan, I think anyone can kind of attest it's a shit show. Like they have not, well, above all else, Rob Pelinka can decide what he wants to do, but I think from any Lakers fan perspective, it's a shit show. They didn't make any moves. Didn't move Russ, which is fair enough. Russ is a big contract. Mm-hmm. Didn't move THT. Again, don't move THT if you don't have a good kind of trade in place. But the one person I thought they'd move, well, actually two. There's two players I thought they'd move. I thought they'd move DJ, maybe for a second. Someone else, where above all else, it'd create cap space. They didn't do that. I thought they're going to move Ken Bazemore again. There seemed to be amongst the league some interest in him. Again, they didn't move him. But yeah, the Lakers just sat pat. And to a certain extent, I understand why they did. They understand that, like, at this moment in time, they do not want to be trading assets for players that they're not going to get a big return. Like, the Lakers are a big return team. Like, we moved off of the likes of Buddy Hield for the likes of Russell Westbrook. And
that was a fateful move, wasn't it?
So good. So good. I guarantee Rob Pelinka's gone like he's like to save, like, I'm not going to curse too much, but I guarantee you,
curse away. The Lakers didn't make any moves at the deadline, please.
I guarantee you Rob Pelinka's like, fuck my life right now. He's like, fuck my life. Like, what did I get myself into? But again, like, the Lakers made the moves they made. They did, and in this trade deadline, they didn't make the moves they didn't make. So above all else, they kind of might have understood that, like, listen, we're not going to move too many assets outwards if we don't feel that the ones we're getting inwards are going to benefit us long term or even short term. My guess is they got so many trades their way saying, like, listen, we'll pick your pockets, we'll take the crap you want to give us, but we'll take a pick in advance. And, like, for better for worse, Rob Pelinka is like, nah, we're not going to do that. Actually, Rob Pelinka, his ass was at fucking Disneyland the entire time.
I don't think that was a real picture. Yeah, so a picture circulated on Twitter. That just seems a little too absurd to me. I think that was taken like a while ago, and then somebody had it, and then they just kind of threw it up. And I'm kind of hesitant on that being real.
No, I agree. It's way too beneficial now to be like coming into the ether. Like, I'm more than likely, obviously, he's a GM. He's a vice president of basketball operations. He's doing his due diligence. He's not going to be like, hey kids, let's go to Disneyland and let's fuck up the rest of Lakers season. Like I don't think he's doing that.
There's no way he wasn't on the phones till the last 30 seconds of the trade deadline. I mean, he was Kobe's old agent, man. He's just not going to change his ways like that now.
No, above all else, I've criticized Pelinka a fair amount. I will not. He's a grinder. Like above all else, he grinds. He wants to work the phones. He wants to make sure Lakers get better. But above all else, and it is no offense to him, it's not a good look for Lakers that they didn't make a single move. Like even if it was DJ and a second for like maybe a borderline presentable player, I think we all would have understood. It's like, okay, Pelinka made a move that he believes will help the Lakers this season. But no, they stood pat, and it seems like they're just going to focus on buyout market, which again, for Lakers, it's, well, the best word I can put is it's unrealistic. You're borderline kind of 8 seed, like 8-7 seed at this moment in time. Not many guys are going to kind of go, oh shit, you're going to be like really a good team that's going to go like long in the playoffs. That doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Like the Bucks, maybe like they have a very good chance of picking up some guys. Like the Suns have a very good chance of picking some guys that are going to benefit them. But I think the Lakers are kind of put themselves in a position where it's like they made their bed with Russ and they're just going to sleep in it. And it sucks. It really sucks, because I would love for us to be like, go like, oh, we moved off of Russ, or he made a trade that made Russ less of a priority in terms of active roster, whereas maybe Russ could be the sixth man. And again, for $43 million a year, you never want to hear that as a player. You just want to be like, oh, this guy's going to be like a borderline MVP. It's just not going to happen this moment in time. Like the Lakers made their bed, they have to sleep in it. And again, it sucks. But again, like the one thing I will say above all else, as a Laker fan and to other Laker fans, we've been through over the last 10, 15 years, a number of rebuilds, a number of reboots, a number of, like, we were changing things up. We went through the D'Lo era, we went through the Ryan Kelly and Robert Sacre and Wayne Ellington era. Like that was it. Above all else, compared to now, that was the ultimate shit show where we're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is the Lakers roster.
It's worse because, go ahead, Jonathan.
This this sounds bad. This isn't too bad. Like if you make the 8th seed, above all else, and I know this is like Lakers fans might not agree with this, at the worst, we might be able to come into the playoff picture if you get the 8th seed and go, right, we have LeBron James, we have Anthony Davis, we have Russell Westbrook. There is a chance we can kind of push off the 1 seed. There's a chance. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. At this stage, I'm saying it's a very unlikelihood. But again, above all else, like the vast majority of the NBA kind of family is not going to bet against LeBron again. Like this moment in time, they will. And I completely understand why they will. But again, like LeBron James is LeBron James, Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis. And while Russell Westbrook is kind of crapping the bed right now, it's not someone you're on to bet against. It's someone you're going to go, okay, them 3 guys might figure it out. At the worst case scenario, they don't. And Lakers kind of just fall playoffs or even don't even make a playoff picture. But I'm willing to bet that they're going to kind of, they're competitive enough where they'll kind of go to each other as like, okay, we fucked up so far this season. Let's kind of bump our heads together, realize how we get to the next stage. And if we can't, we can't. If we do, we do.
Yeah.
I personally think there is an X factor that's going to disappear in all this. And I think it's going to be Frank Vogel. I think he's the X factor that will disappear into the kind of ether, and Russell Westbrook, for better for worse, will stay.
X factor as in first to go?
As in like get his ass out the door, put his ass to the flames, as in like chip, 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 boom.
It sounds more intense when you say it with your Irish accent, put his ass to the flames. I like it.
No, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, the fact that we still have LeBron and AD, if we can just get these last 25 games of health, that's literally the best thing that we can ask for. we still have to bank on Frank playing some sus-ass rotations. Avery Bradley played 35 minutes last night when Austin Reeves was doing his usual Austin Reeves thing, but he only got 13 minutes. I mean, it's like Frank and these lineups are preventing us from hitting our ceiling, but our chemistry and our talent was so much better 2020 that we busted through in spite of that, and we fucking won the championship. It's like the Dodgers. I'm not sure if you follow baseball much, but a lot of the Dodgers were so talented.
My Dodgers jersey is literally over there, so I
We've never talked baseball before because I know you're a Niners fan when it comes to football.
Love me some Dodgers. I love them Dodgers.
Then I apologize for making that inference of you. It's like Dave Roberts, man. It's like we won that title in spite of Dave Roberts. So many moments where I thought his decisions were going to fuck us, and we ended up just fucking pulling it through. But to your point, LeBron and AD, having them in the playoffs and just a little more time to gel, just for Malik Monk to get some more reps in with the stars, I think we have a chance. But the crazy thing about this is the chemistry just seems so shot after Frank hasn't been playing Westbrook in these crunch time situations. I think it's the right call. I mean, early in the season, after the first game, once I saw Westbrook play out with AD and LeBron, I was wondering, like, should we make this guy a six man? I know it's never going to happen, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud. Should we? My rest policy is just what Frank's doing right now. If he's not playing well, fucking bench him. I'm sorry. And it's like, I think what Frank does in these film sessions, why he gives guys such a long leash, is in these film sessions, he's probably like, you should have done this, you should have done this, blah, blah, blah. He keeps giving him opportunities. And then so when he finally takes it away after a long time, he's like, well, I've told you everything you had to do and you haven't been doing it. And Russ saying something to the media to the effect of, I don't know why I'm getting benched, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's simply not true, dude. You're in these film sessions. Like, they're telling you exactly what you got to be doing, man. And you haven't changed as a player for the longest fucking time. And since you lost your athleticism, your game has fallen off a cliff, man. You did mention, getting rid of DJ and Kent Bazemore. I had a hard time ever seeing that happen, man. And maybe, no, we can't buy him out because of luxury tax reasons, right? So how does that work, by the way? So trade deadline is passed. DJ and Kent, I think, could still be useful, but Frank fucking hates him for some reason. DJ is dead weight. Why can't we just buy DJ out?
DJ is one of the, this is something Lakers fans or even NBA fans won't talk about in general. DJ, even though he's a minimum contract, is potentially one of the worst contracts in Lakers history. For the simple fact, if we were to cut him right now, he's going to cost us $20.7 million against the cap.
20 against the cap? So as in minimum, like making $1 million is going to.
As in, like, he's making 2.7, 2.4 right now. So basically, the Lakers are up against the kind of the repeater tax. So basically, if you cut a guy that has a contract of 2.7, 2.4 million, you basically double that, and then you bring in a guy who again is 2.7, 2.4, you double that again. So you put the two contracts together, you're still paying DJ. Like, DJ's contract's not going to disappear. But then again, you're going to pay another guy that's coming in, and it's going to be another contract on top of that. The Lakers wanted to do was to remove DJ. And again, from everything I've heard, they were like really close to moving them. Again, they didn't want to move any kind of second 8 picks. They didn't want to remove any second round picks to get rid of them. They just wanted to find a team that was just willing to take his contract. That was never going to happen.
They wanted the first round pick, and they knew we were desperate. They knew that LeBron has this window.
Yeah.
It's like this year and next is the window, and this year looks pretty fucked. So teams know that we're desperate. They know that our record is falling in the standings. Like you were saying earlier, they're just trying to extract whatever kind of crazy shit they could out of us. We're not going to lose the first round pick for DeAndre Jordan and Kent Bazemore, man. It's got to be for a Russ trade or for like a THT trade. Neither of which happened this trade deadline, man.
From everything I've heard, actually this is kind of an indictment on Rob Pelinka. They don't want to deal with that guy anymore. Like, yeah, most teams just do not want to deal with Rob Pelinka. Like, Rob Pelinka, when he feels like he does a good trade. Okay, so every trade, like regardless of whether it's the Lakers or another team, every trade the other team should feel like they've won. Like you send what you send and they send what they send. And above all else, both, like the ideal scenario is both teams should feel like they won. Like you've sent me like a decent proposition, whether it be a player and a pick, I send you something back. Above all else, both teams should feel, okay, we might have won this trade. With Rob Pelinka, his MO is, no, I'm destroying you in this trade. This is I win, you lose. And above all else, and it's like, without sound disrespectful to Kobe, that's like Kobe's mentality is like, I win, you lose. I destroy you, you lose. And Rob Pelinka's, he, for better for worse, he's inherited that kind of mentality, which again, the Mamba mentality is a real thing. It's as like, I kill you, you die kind of thing. Like that, like for Lakers fans, that's become a way of life to a certain extent. It's like, we win, you lose. But to a certain extent, the bill comes due for certain teams who are like, no, like we've lost for a long time. We're not going to lose this trade. Whereas like, I think Rob Pelinka shot himself in the foot where he had, I'm the vice president of basketball operations and I'm also the GM. Whereas some teams have like, if we dislike you as a GM, we can deal with another guy. But Rob Pelinka's like, no, I'm the guy. Like the above and below, that's me. I'm dealing with these trades. I think the Lakers have shot themselves in the foot in that regard in terms of like, we don't have that guy. Rob Pelinka is that guy. So if you don't have a good relationship with Rob Pelinka, Lakers are kind of, for lack of a better word, fucked. Because that's the guy you're dealing with. And if you don't like him, you're not going to deal with him. You're going to move on to the next team. And maybe if it means that you get like a slightly lesser talent, like fractionally lesser, you'll deal with them. You'll deal with them because like, oh, I've got a good relationship with them. I haven't a relationship of them screwing me over. Whereas now I think Rob Pelinka is like, oh, I've kind of maybe buried a few teams in terms of the trades I've done over the course of my life, or even what the clients I've had. That's going to pay back. I think Rob Pelinka has shot himself in the foot. He's kind of been the be all and end all. That should never, like one person should never define a franchise. And I think Rob Pelinka for the last couple of years has been like, I'm the guy. Again, I understood, like he believes in himself, he should. Any person that's in the position should believe, I'm the guy, I'm going to make sure this franchise pushes on. But again, the Lakers as a franchise should not have to rely on just one particular person. They shouldn't have to rely on Rob Pelinka for just one trade. They should have a GM in place that is like, okay, I'll be the day-to-day guy. I'll look after, like if someone sends in a trade offer, I'll pass on to you, Rob. And Rob, whether you decide to take it, that's your prerogative or not. But there should also be someone that's a kind of a relationship guy who comes in and says, listen, I'll build relationships with teams. Rob, you clearly don't do that. You kind of screw teams, and teams don't want to deal with you. Like even with the Knicks, even up until deadline day today, basically the Knicks to a certain extent were open to taking, for everything we've heard, the Knicks were open to taking Russell Westbrook. They were open. It doesn't mean that they were like very delighted to take his contract.
I don't think anyone would have been, but yeah.
But they were open. They're like, we want that one, which again for $44 million a year, the one is like inconsequential.
What are we getting back though if it's the Knicks deal? Yeah. So
for Knicks, it was supposedly Alec Burke, Kemba Walker, and Evan Fournier. So we would have given Russell Westbrook in the first and for them three guys. Again, I will say as a Lakers fan, for the short term, it's not a bad deal because you get three guys who are probably going to help you a little bit towards potentially competing.
The only piece I don't like there is Kemba, just because we have enough small guys that don't play defense. But Fournier, Burks would have been the prize of that deal, and the prize of that deal would have been getting off of Russ, honestly.
The funny thing is they wanted to do that. Well, according to the Lakers, they were willing to do that deal And then it was kind of like in the last day, it was like, okay, how about it's just Burks for THT? Then the Lakers were like, no, we're not going to do that. Like THT is young guy under a very team acceptable contract. We're not going to kind of move off for him, and especially we're not going to pay a pick to get off him. So Lakers are kind of screwed in that way. But I think Rob Pelinka's the hens are coming home to roost. He needs a middleman. It's just not him anymore. Like he's good at his job, and like above all else, we need to give him respect. This guy is the same guy that put together the 2021 team that won the championship. Like he did. We can't fault him for that. He put that team together. They won the championship. Look great. But you can't have one person being the like put together guy, the fall guy, that's like everything goes through me. It can't be that way. So many teams who are some significantly more experienced than us over the last couple of years have number of people that are like, the only team I can think of that doesn't is Spurs. Even Spurs are shitting the bed right now because this sounds terrible. It feels like they're trying to fuck the Lakers. Like that Derek White deal is pretty weird. The kind of Goran Dragic deal is pretty weird. It feels like it's more so like I want to take away from you than I want to benefit you. Like
Derek White went to the Celtics, right?
That shit is crazy.
I mean,
it doesn't make sense.
There was no chatter about Derek White before then, right?
Like he's a good player. He's a very good player. That's the thing that surprised me. That they got basically Romeo Langford. They got who else did they get? They got Romeo Langford. They got
I don't know if them dealing to the Celtics is as much fucking the Lakers as if it went to like Phoenix or Golden State. I think that would have been fucking the Lakers. But Phoenix made out like bandits today, anyways. They got who did they got? They got a wing, and then they got one of the Holiday brothers. So they got a wing and a guard.
Do you remember they got two guards and a wing and a first round pick.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. So that makes me even more mad that we didn't take care of business last year against them, man, because we only got weaker and they only have gotten exponentially stronger. And if we're lucky enough to make it to the 8th seed and, you know, or the 7 and they're 2 or 1, I mean, this team is nowhere near as well matched up against as the Suns were last year. They would absolutely destroy us. I think we'd go 5 games most just because they're such a well-oiled machine. I don't think it'd be pretty close. I mean, if the Suns and Lakers got matched up.
No, I think they'd maul us. I think this is something the Lakers have not taken into consideration. I think consistency is very, very important to championship teams.
I've been fucking yelling from the rooftops about this shit all year after what happened last year.
It's so important. Like this Suns team, they put in Chris Paul into the mix, but again, the vast majority
they had a foundation before that.
Yeah, they had bunch of guys. Like again, they did have a team that was going to push them over the edge. But you add like an all NBA performer in Chris Paul, and whose exact job is to be like a field general, who's to be like the leader. You interject him into a lineup that is somewhat talented, as in like Devin Booker, and I don't say this lightly, as like potentially has been like the second coming of Kobe. He's just a guy. You know, DeAndre Ayton, who is again, like obviously people say that the center position is dying. Like nobody told him. Like he's just going to show. Like if he shows up on a consistent basis, that dude is a guy. You have like campaign. You have a bunch of guys who just know how to play their position. They have no ego. They just know what they need to do. They're going to push on and they're going to do well. Whereas the Lakers are like, okay, Alex Caruso, yeah, you're an important part of our organization. Oh, you want to get paid like maybe 500,000 more than we're going to pay you? Okay, go away.
That mentality is just not going to build.
It's a joke.
With that mentality, you're never going to build a dynasty. You're only going to get one championship. Like if you get lucky, if like the pieces you can still build a good roster, but with their fucking break it down, trying to upgrade, fuck continuity mentality, the most you're going to get out of that is like one championship, man. Contenders have to fucking shell out the money to keep the guys. They have to make them feel appreciated. I mean, Alex is going to take less money to stay here. it's just there's too many problems with the Lakers right now, man.
The biggest thing I don't understand is that, like, I'm trying to kind of, I was thinking to myself that, okay, I want to listen to what Pling is going to say, like what his thought process is. But even with Kobe, when Kobe didn't meet the mark with Trevor Ariza, he kept the same team. It was Pau Gasol, it was Andrew Bynum, it was then a bunch of guys, it was Sasha, it was Jordan Farmer. The big change he made was from Trevor Ariza to Ron Artest. And even like off the bat, he turned around to Ron Artest and said, well, meta word piece now. I'm not going to disrespect his name. He basically said, like, we're replacing you with a guy, like, you're coming here for a guy that was showing up last season. He was a guy.
2009 Trevor was one of my favorite role players ever, bro.
He showed up. He did what he needed to do. He didn't fuck up. But we're letting him go for you, meaning that we believe as an organization, as Kobe, as Phil Jackson, as at the time Mitch Kupchak, as in Jim Buss, we all believe that you could be the next piece that's going to push us over the edge again. I think for the Lakers, they don't have that kind of community of people that are kind of talking back and forth and saying, listen, this is how things go. I think Pelinka looked at this team and was like, okay, we didn't reach the mountaintop last time. Let's completely rejig things and just basically kind of rebuild the teams. That's not how championship teams are built. You introduce maybe one, maybe two at most pieces that are going to change the roster. I think the Lakers completely just kind of took their finger off the pulse altogether and like, no, we're going to introduce a bunch of guys. 9 times out of 10, that doesn't work. Like, I don't think you can name one roster in recent history who, if you completely upended them and it's like, okay, at the end of the year, you're the guys, you're the winners, you win everything. Like, it just doesn't happen. Continuity is so key in the NBA. And like, Lakers proved it, the Celtics proved it in previous years. The Golden State Warriors, they kept the vast majority of the guys they had there. Obviously, they introduced likes of KD. Anytime you introduce KD, it's going to push you over the edge. But again, it's the vast majority of the roster you have who know how to play together that will win games and win championships. This Lakers team was like, no, we're going to basically go with the roster. LeBron will keep you. AD will keep you. Everybody, God fucking damn, will keep you. I was like, but Carmelo,
bring you back and make you the coach's son. Yep.
Yeah, but Frank, we're going to let you run. Like, we're going to let you run shit, even though like we haven't put a team together that's going to like benefit you at all. Mm-hmm. Frank, we know you're defensive like mastermind. We know you know your shit in defense, but like, we're not going to give you any guys to play defense. We're going to give you a bunch of veterans who are like, yeah, I'll wait till the playoffs. Like, there's in no
and even
way
then they're going to be too tired and hurt by the playoffs to play defense. Yeah. So that's
no
why
way,
I'm not high.
Yeah, in no way did the Lakers put Frank in a position to succeed. In no way did they put LeBron in a position to succeed. Like, the best case scenario, and I've said this in the mountaintops, the best case scenario for the Lakers right now is, sorry, Frank, bounce your ass out of here. Like, bring in, and this is quite unlikely, bring in Terry Stotts as an interim, which he probably won't take. Like, he's going to be offered a head coaching position somewhere. Offer him the interim position and say, Frank, Terry, just run shit. Do what you do. The worst case scenario is we don't make the playoffs. We weren't going to, off the back of what we're doing. You run shit. Do what you need to do. Put this team in an offensive way where they can potentially succeed, which could potentially happen. Like, I think this team is built in a certain way as like, just go all defense, go all offense. It's not defensively built. Like, Frank is just set up to fail. Like,
I'm with you on that all offense approach for sure. I think what we got to take into account too is I'm also wondering who is going to want to step up and take the coaching job next year. I'm taking some notes on the side here. When I wrote was coaching pressure, because you're going to be dealing with the pressure of coaching for the Lakers, but also for LeBron's last contract year. I don't think that's being talked about a whole lot yet, but that's going to be something that a new coach is going to have to walk into and try and make shit work in 1 year. I mean, practically speaking, I could have seen like Ty Lue doing that if he was a free agent, but I have no idea what we're gonna do in terms of the coaching, man. Circling back to Rob a little bit, you mentioned that we need another guy who just has better relationships with the front offices and everything. That's one thing I definitely think is the next step they got to do. Are they going to make that step? I'm not so sure they will. They seem pretty set in their ways. It seems like any really like effective, productive change just doesn't fucking happen with the Lakers, you know? Just like shit never seems to work out like that. Even with things as bad as they are right now, you really wonder if it's going to make them, you know, get more defensive in their ways or if it's going to open their mind to it. Magic stepping down back in like 2018 was kind of crazy for me because I thought these same things I think about the Lakers now, and there's still a lot of the same problems with nepotism and everything. And I was thinking, they're never going to fire Magic. How would that look if they fired Magic Johnson? The unprecedented move was Magic stepping down on his own because he saw like he looked at it his own like position in the job and you know how much shit he fucked up. That was crazy. That was a turning point, but that came from Magic. This is going to be the people making the decisions now are going to be Genie, the fucking Ramby, Jesus Christ. They seem very set in their ways and just not open to fucking doing shit the most effective way, honestly. And it just can't help me, but I can't help but think, how is the rest of this season going to play out? You know, didn't make any moves at the trade deadline. Clearly, this isn't a championship winning team. In your eyes, how do you see the rest of this playing out, Jonathan?
For this season or just in general?
For this season, and we can talk about it in general as well.
For this season, Blink is safe. Ramos is safe. This again, I will say this. This is no disrespect to Jeannie. Jeannie put her money where her mouth is. She bet on the likes of Magic and she bet on the likes of Rob Blinket. And again, for better or for worse, it paid off. They won a championship. Like we cannot shit on Lakers for that. They won a championship. They got to the promised land. They've now reached kind of the same pinnacle as the Celtics in all-time kind of wins in terms of championships. We can't. I don't think it's fair as us as a fan base to completely crap on them for, well, I'm not going to say one season. It's been a few seasons in terms of between championships. It isn't fair. They have put us in a position to win. So I'm not the biggest person that's going to shit on them. Say, listen, Jeannie, fuck you. Rob Blinker, fuck you. They got us to the promised land. We won. And again, I think off the back of Kobe's passing, I think it was so apt that we won that championship. And as a fan base, that was something so cathartic for us that we just like, listen, that season could have been just decimated by that news. Like, no, like I know, like, and this is actually, I'm going to say something that's going to piss a lot of NBA fans off. I thought it was very, very unfair the way NBA fans came out and were like, oh, we're so sorry for Kobe. I understand that you watch Kobe growing up as well, and you have a level of respect. But I also thought when it suited different teams, they kind of changed their kind of tune in terms of like the Lakers, as in like they're more Kobe fans than they were Lakers fans. Again, I'm saying they don't have to be mutually exclusive, but when the Lakers won, it was more so kind of people continuing to shit on the Lakers is like, oh, it's a fake season, but Kobe was a Laker, so we're going to kind of let it fly. I'm like, I don't agree with that. I think it should be mutually exclusive. Kobe was a Laker for life. He's going to be, for the rest of his, like for the rest of time, Kobe's going to be beloved. I see a lot of fans kind of being Kobe fans. I understand they're not Laker fans. Like Kobe is not just for the Lakers. He's for the rest of the NBA. He's for everyone. Like he's that guy. He's that person that showed up. You just showed the toughness and gritness. But I'm like, I regress. But yeah, I'm just very torn about this front office at this moment in time. I believe they put us in a position to win the championship, and I'm very, very thankful for that. But I also think that for Jeannie personally, I think under her own volition, she realizes she doesn't know much about the basketball side of things. When it comes to business, she is a G. She's like a borderline goddess. Like she knows her shit. She's been living that life for the guts of 30 years. The Lakers have never been more profitable under her leadership than when she's been at the helm. But I feel that she relies too much upon the people that she knows than actual basketball minds who feel like they have like Kurt Rambis and Lynn Rambis. I don't doubt that they know their stuff about basketball. I don't doubt it. I'm guessing they're basketball historians. They know basketball back to front to back. Again, that doesn't dictate them to hold one of the biggest franchises in all of professional sports to ransom.
That should go without saying, but that's
Yeah.
really the core issue at here. It's just the nepotism going on there, man.
Yeah, and above all else, like I think Jeannie Buss as a businesswoman should realize that as a business, relying on your friends is not the best way to do business. Like in any form of life, like obviously you have people you trust. By all means, use them people you trust as kind of sounding boards, as in you lean upon them for opinions, and at the very worst, you like use their opinion, but never put them people in positions of power where they dictate, as in like it's not your decision, but they dictate what happens to this franchise, what happens long term, what becomes of your team in the short and long term. Again, Rob Pelinka, great general manager. I can't crap on him there. Like he did what he did, and the Lakers won a championship. But again, there should never be a position where he is the be all and end all. There needs to be a guy in between him and Jeannie Buss, where you kind of go, listen, I feel differently. That
If
is
they make
now.
that kind of move, I'm going to be very encouraged. If they bring in another guy to be the middleman, like you say, I don't really know if I see him making that move, but that's going to be the first thing that I get pretty encouraged by.
I think Pelinka, genuinely, to save his own job, I think Pelinka makes that move. He brings in his
Pelinka
own,
makes that move.
yeah, generally, I think he brings in his own guy, like he trusts, and it's like, you're going to turn around to me. But who's a relationship guy? As in a guy who comes in and is like, hey, I'm everybody's friend, I'm everyone's buddy. I'll talk to different front offices, whereas Rob doesn't have to talk to them, and they like, hi Rob, hang up the phone. There'll be a guy that comes in who's like, oh, I'll run this shit and I'll build them relationships. Rob, at the end of the day, it's your decision to make if this trade goes through or not. But I think Rob brings in his own guy. I think Rob wants to wrestle I think this is an internal Lakers struggle. I think Rob realizes that the likes of the Ramesses have too much of a say in the Lakers. Because again, above all else, without him saying this, they're above him. They're his.
Why, bro? Why?
Whether he likes to admit it or not,
Why?
they're his superior. As in, like,
God.
yes sir, no sir, how much sir? Like that. Rob Pelinka does not want that above his head.
The guy who's like got a 200 winning percentage as a coach, that guy, Kurt Rambis, Jesus Christ.
The guy that's absolutely dog shit and has never, apart from being like a sixth man in this league, again, great sixth man in this league, is not a kind of a person you should be trusting your franchise to. That above all else, unfortunately to Jeannie, that's her problem. Again, like I think I actually really take umbrage with is I think a lot of people in the Lakers community are pointing out because she's a woman. No, I disagree with that wholeheartedly. That has nothing to do with her ability to do her job. She's fantastic.
That should also go without saying, but there's a lot of really sexist ass piece of shit people. I mean, that's why I haven't been going on Twitter as much lately. It's just a lot of that shit, man.
No, it's an absolute joke. She they don't give her any respect for the championship teams, even in the early 2000s and like the early 2000s and the mid 2000s. She was an integral part of the Lakers organization. Obviously, Jerry Buss, God rest his soul, was very much like in lock and step with the moves are made. She was equally as important to them teams, and especially the championship team we put together. She was integral to that part. I don't agree that any kind of disrespect should be thrown on her shoulders. No, she's doing what she feels is best, and that's what any person should do. You do what you feel is best for the organization. Again, she was wrong. I believe in this instance she was wrong. I don't believe that should be her kind of nail in the coffin. I believe like any person who's willing to, like, she cares. She loves this Lakers organization. I believe that she needs to be put in a position where it's like, okay, I'm not going to trust the Ramses as much, which I think any Lakers fan or any Lakers fan with the kind of a brain should kind of be like, yeah, we're going to back away from that group very slowly.
How do you do that gracefully is the question. You just
I think she should remain to have Linda as one of her closest advisors, but in a business sense. I think that Kurt should not be a be all and end all kind of confidant. I think he should be someone they ask questions of, and if the management and the general manager and the president of basketball operations all agree with Kurt, by all means, then go for it. I don't think he should be the final decision maker. I think it's unfair for a team that is even you mentioned it, the Knicks team, he screwed them badly. Like, he went there as a coach and fucked them up. Like, for lack of
no
better
track record of success in front office coaching.
He fucked them up. Like, Lakers are a nearly $4 billion industry. At the very worst, as from a business interest, Genie isn't going to want to fuck that up. Put people in position of success. Like, above all else, Lakers are an organization that people want to work for. Like, before Rob Pelinka got employed, Masai Ujiri wanted to come to the Lakers. There's a bunch of people that wanted to come to Lakers, like, oh my God, this is an unbelievable opportunity. They're willing to take lesser positions with the Lakers so they could come to the Lakers because they realize this is such a, like,
I just fantasized about a world where we have Masai Ujiri as our G.
Oh, that should be crazy, man. It'd be crazy.
But we have the pool to get people like that, man. It right now feels like a lot of the same talking points about nepotism and just about we're the Lakers. This is our big brand. What are we doing here? We can do so much better. This is the same shit that was happening in LeBron's first year, man. I feel like I'm in a time capsule for real. But
100%.
I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, I'm totally blanking right now. I think
no, it's a team that's in flux. Above all else, it's a team that's in flux and needs changing. More than likely, it's going to happen in the offseason. I think Russ disappears. I think we use them first round picks to move off Russ, kind of build. I think with Russ, we have a chance to move off him in the offseason, have some cap space if we just remove guys.
The thing is, we're going to have another pick in the offseason, aren't we? We're going to have a 2029 pick that we could trade.
Yeah, it's the 2026 and 29 or 27 and 29 pick at the moment.
Mm-hmm. So that's another first round pick we'd be parting with, but that does make a more appealing trade offer.
Yeah, but the thing I don't understand is people are like talking about like, oh, we keep Russ and then we use him 2 first round picks to get a star. Who?
I really have no idea. Honestly, I don't think anyone wants Russ. That's why I didn't think anything was going to happen this trade deadline. I think Russ is playing out. I mean, another avenue is, which has been talked about a little, Russ refuses a player option and then he declines it. He gets on a more team-friendly contract, and then, but with longer years, so that maybe he can make up that money. But then again, you're stuck with like really old ass Russ. But that's another way to do it. So if he declined his player option, then got like a 3-year deal worth 60 or something, then he's making a little more money, but it's a little more team flexibility where they can actually add pieces. That still is rough, you know, the older Russ gets, but
right.
I guess it also makes him a little more tradable too, if he's not worth as much freaking money.
It feels like the Lakers are trying to kind of, this sounds silly, like even from like a money point of view, it feels like the Lakers are just trying to like get Russ out of that contract. I was like, we're not going to play you. So like, basically we'll hold on to you for an extra year and you'll sit your ass on the bench, but we know you're so competitive. So basically buy yourself, basically refuse your last year of your contract and let you go. You can make more money elsewhere. Like both, like it's kind of the Chris Paul deal, even though Chris Paul knew he was getting like another deal elsewhere. Chris Paul refused his last year with the Suns, knowing very well that he's going to get another deal with the Suns and extend. That's probably not going to happen with Russ, but I don't understand why people think like, oh, Russ is just going to like refuse his last year or he's going to kind of move on from something else. He's not. Russ realizes that 47 million is 47 million. Like
it'd be declining his last year, but he'd have to get more money in the long run. That would have to be deal versus like a 40.
He'd need a team to come along and say, okay, Russ, we'll give you 3 years, 70 million. As in something that benefits you to reject that contract and stick with us long term. No team's giving that. No one.
Yeah. Not even OKC would want him back like that.
No. Like the best that OKC could hope, like I was semi-convinced that OKC would take our contract if he gave him a first this year. I was semi-convinced they'd take him back. For a simple fact, they get jersey sales, they get another first round pick. But then again, if you think about it long term, why would they do that? They have to pay Russell 47 million next year, which they don't want to do. Like as many jersey sales as you want, they're not going to sell that.
It's like there's issues with Russ. Sorry to cut you off. It's like there's issues with Russ on court, but there's also just issues with the damn trade and how much money he takes up on. I mean, that's a lot of times where the frustration comes from. It's not just Russ does great things on the court and he does bad things too, and both of those happen a lot, but it's just his freaking contract situation with us because he's there and because of this big ass number that he's occupying, it's preventing us from building a real contender. And I remember what I was going to say now. I think, for all intents and purposes, our window is closed this year. So I'm just wondering how the day-to-day is going to play out with this crazy team, man, with Frank and Russ not having a good dynamic anymore. And, who knows between LeBron, AD, and Russ too. But I mean, I think it's over for this year, but I wonder how we proceed just from a game-to-game perspective. Like play some younger guys, maybe call up some G League guys, see what you have. I mean, it sucks to lose a fucking one of the last years of LeBron's prime. But another thing I wanted to mention too, a lot of this is on Rob, but I also place equal blame on AD and LeBron because they're the ones recruiting Russ, man. They're the ones recruiting the stars, and they knew what he was going to take up in terms of contract, and they knew what they're giving up in terms of their continuity and the defense of our championship winning team. So it's Rob, it's Genie, it's a lot of front office shit, but it's also LeBron and AD, dude. They're the ones signing off on these moves. And I'm sure, all those reports I was reading was that Pelinka wanted the Hield deal, which of course we do 10 out of 10 times now because we keep KCP, I believe, in that Hield deal.
We keep KCP, we keep AC, we keep our first round pick. Like if you looking back, I'm not talking about microphone. It's the most obvious deal known to man. And like we can't blame Plink for that. Like he's
the one who got that thing together and he was like, it's ready to go. And I think what happened was he presented the options like, but this deal is also possible now. This is Russ and we trade this much shit, but I still have this Hield deal. And I think he puts it in front of Genie and LeBron and they all kind of consult on this. Like you said, Blake is doing a good job of putting things together.
I heard different.
Oh, really?
I heard that Pelinka came to the table with the Hield deal and LeBron came to the table with the Westbrook deal.
LeBron's putting this deal together?
As in him, Rich Paul had basically reached out to Russ and Russ's people reached out to the Wizards and said, this is what it would take.
If that's the case, that's on LeBron. That's like 75% on LeBron and 25% on Pelinka for accepting that, for not being like, fuck you.
I think Pelinka's big thing, for better, for worse. And this is not a sign of a bad GM. Pelinka is willing to listen to his stars, which you should. Again, you should listen to your stars, and not in terms of they be the final decision makers, but they should be people that you lean upon in terms of like they have experience. Like LeBron James, 4-time MVP, you lean on his 3-time, 4-time. I think it's 4-time.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah, 4-time MVP. You listen when he speaks. You listen. AD, borderline defensive player of the year every single year for the last number of years. You listen to his opinion. Rich Paul, probably the most powerful agent in all of basketball. You listen to his opinion. Again, you listen to these opinions. You don't. That shouldn't be the decision maker. Like I guarantee you, Rob Pelinka heard like, oh, he heard Russell Westbrook, aka former MVP, aka one of the top 50 players of all time in NBA history, regardless of what people think of him. He is like he's just a guy. Like on an individual team, like especially for OKC, he was like just a beast. You listen to that, and then you hear Buddy Hield's overinflated contracts, just a shooter, doesn't play defense, is 27, 28. Basically, he's a bit old for his contract in terms of like, he's not going to get any better. You hear all these different things, and then you hear former MVP, former the triple double king. Like you hear all that stuff. It's like, okay, it's easy to be swayed.
And if someone with LeBron's accolades, like you were saying, throws themselves behind that, and you're like, why am I going to argue with someone who's mastered the game of basketball to a level that only a few have? I mean, we all, when this Russ trade went down, we all were like buying into it because we're still giving LeBron the benefit of the doubt. We're like, wait, they just
100%. I was hype. I was hype when we got Russ.
For you were hype when we got Russ.
Oh, like I
turned on him quick.
The gas thing is, I like, and this is like people like feel like I shit on Russ. I've been saying for the last 6-7 months before we sign Russ. I thought Russ was the answer. I was wrong. I can say this with like both hands held up in the air. I was wrong.
LeBron's thinking the same thing right now.
Yeah, I thought Russ was the secondary playmaker we needed. The secondary score, like after like off the bench, then another scorer we needed. I was convinced, but then I overlooked his defense. I overlooked his inability to be a third option. I overlooked his unwillingness to play team basketball. I overlooked a significant amount of stuff, which I shouldn't have. Again, as a basketball fan, as a Lakers fan, that was my fault. I fully realized that but again, I'm not in a position of power. I'm not a guy that's the decision maker. I'm not the guy that's like the buck stops by me. But I also understand where Rob Pelinka agreed with LeBron. He agreed with AD, or agreed with Rich. Like off the bat of just like numbers, you're like, guy that's been like never been All-Star in his life, guy that's been MVP and 8-time All-Star. Like it's a very one-sided battle if you think about it. But then again, in the long term, if you take into account, you lose KCP, you lose what else we lose? KCP, AC, first round pick, lose a bunch of guys. Like I think Pelinka should have trusted his gut, and I think it's kind of bitten us in the ass. But again, you live by the bullet, you die by the bullet. Like we made what we made, decision we made, and we live by it. Like there's plenty of other franchises in the NBA that have never won a championship, who haven't won, like especially the Celtics. And Celtics can go fuck themselves because I see them celebrating in the background. You can all go fuck yourselves.
This is coming from an Irish guy too, so this one's are hard. Celtics.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I did a podcast yesterday, and they said leprechaun, and I was like, hey, Joe, like joking. I was like, motherfucker, I'm like nearly 6 foot tall. You can go fuck yourself. Like I'm not a leprechaun.
They fucked with the wrong guy that day, man.
But I was like, but the thing is, like Celtics, apart from the championship in 2007, 2008, since Larry Bird has been like born, they haven't been relevant. And I was like, I was
a long time.
Yeah, and then there was like, what about Bill Russell? I was like, motherfucker, I was a center when Bill Russell was playing. Like my height, I'm barely 6 foot. Bill, I would have been marking Bill Russell's. Like you won championships when it's like a fucking embarrassment. Like I'm sick of this absolute talk from the Celtics fans. Like again,
I can't take it seriously just because their legacy was built when the league was not a fraction of what it is now. I can't even begin to take it seriously.
The only thing I just disagree with, again, everybody is entitled to their opinion. I'll never lessen anyone's opinion. If that's what they believe, that's what they believe. I won't disagree with them. But all I take into account is listen, did your team win a championship? No. Shut the fuck up. No one wants to listen to you. You haven't won a championship. I was like, the Phoenix Suns fans, like, yeah, we got the 2 championships. Did you win any of them? No, you didn't. You didn't win it with Steve Nash. You're not going to fucking win with Chris Paul. You're like, Chris Paul's going to dislocate his hip and you're fucked.
They
Like,
better not win with Chris Paul, dude. I'm pulling for Giannis now. All our hopes rest on Giannis again to stop the evil Warriors and Suns from.
I'm
these
telling you
dubs.
now, I'm convinced after this trade, it's going to be the 76ers.
The same finals.
They got 76ers. Actually,
76ers. No. Okay.
Yeah. I just think there isn't a better match for Embiid than James Harden, for a simple fact. Embiid, and again, I'm actually going to go off. I'm actually pissed tonight. Not physically pissed, but I'm like just verbally pissed. Embiid can go fuck himself. What a fucking shithead move to release that tweet of like the funeral scene from that meme about Ben Simmons. I was like, motherfucker, not just him, both of you dragged each other to the latter parts of the Eastern Conference. Like he was like, he's not a bum. Why are you talking about him as if he's a bum? You got James Harden again, who's a lazy fucker, going to more strip clubs than he is to games. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, he's a good, like, both guys are good players. Give him his respect rather than shitting him. I was like, you're a troll. Again, like, you've never won an MVP. You never won a Defense Player of the Year. Mm-hmm. No one's like, if anyone ever put like a top 10, you're not in it. Like, shut the fuck up. It's like, win a championship and then you can talk shit. Like, you're not Shaq. You're not Robinson. You're not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You're a very, very good player. An exceptional, like, well, I will say an exceptional player. But shut the fuck up and just play the game. I was like, there's plenty of guys in your position who've done more. Like fucking KD's a troll, won a MVP. LeBron talks shit sometimes, won like numerous MVPs. Just shut the fuck up and play the game. Like, I'm sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but
needed it, Jonathan. It's all good.
No, I just think like John B's a piece of shit. I'm sorry, he's a piece of shit. I just can't stand the guy.
I like seeing him fail, to be honest. I mean, just he talks he's the biggest shit talker when it comes to.
But he doesn't back it up.
Stars in this league, yeah, he hasn't been
backed up. He's not better than like these are facts. He's not better than AD on both sides of the ball. That's a fucking fact. He's not better than Jokic. Jokic would eat his lunch every single day if he went from like game to game, eat his lunch. I understand.
I need AD to get healthy again, man. I mean, he is healthy now, but I just need to see that consistent offensive game from AD again, man. Because Embiid's probably better than him right now offensively, but you know when AD's locked in, his instincts and his fucking defensive acumen is way better than Joel's.
Yeah, I think Joel I think he's one of these guys who kind of this sounds terrible. He's the Twitter generation, as in like he's the easily offended. Kind of like he feels like what he says has no repercussions to do. Mm-hmm. Like Ben Simmons, like above all else, and I've dealt with mental health issues myself in the past. Like Ben Simmons, I don't think he says flippantly that he's dealing with mental health issues. And again, repeatedly you pile on top of him, repeatedly saying like, you're weak, you're not somebody we relied upon, you disappeared in the finals. It's like, again, for someone that might be dealing with some issues, like that's a really shitty thing to do.
I agree with you on that, 100%.
Yeah, it's just so shitty to do. It's like Ben Simmons again. Maybe he like. No, I'm not going to speak for Ben Simmons. I'm not going to speak for Joel Embiid. Maybe Ben is dealing with some stuff. I think he is. I think he's just got sick of the 76ers fans crapping all over him, basically ruining his life, saying he's a piece of shit, saying he's nothing, that he's not worried the first round pick. Like. Think of you as a person being a first overall pick. Everyone since you've been like a teenager is telling you you're amazing, and then someone coming along and a fan base coming along, millions of people saying you're shit. Like that's gonna fuck with you big time. Like I'll stop going about this again. Like I'm a Ben Simmons advocate. I think if it clicks all together for that guy, he's gonna be amazing. I say this with full like strength of my conviction. I think if Ben Simmons, all clicks together for him. He's going to be better than Joel Embiid in all said and done. I think he's already a better defensive player. Like, he's a 2-time borderline defensive player of the year. I think he's just a jumper away from being like a really good player. Again, I digress.
I don't know if that jumper is ever going to show up. I think he's going to have
no,
Draymond Green kind of shit the rest of his career, honestly. And if that's fine.
He'll be hitting off the backboard like Russ has been hitting off like the last couple of years. But at least the difference he had, like, actually, I'll stop talking about this. But like, no, I think the Lakers as a team, they're kind of fucked. For better for worse, like in a summary, they're kind of fucked. I think for this year, they're kind of fucked. I think next year, if they get their picks, they're in a decent position. I think they'll be in a position to move away from Russ. Again, it's going to be difficult, but they'll be able to maybe find a contract that is kind of team option. They can kind of disintegrate and turn it into nothing. Again, I was so confident that they're going to turn a Russ contract to the Thunder for like a first round pick and get like Derek Favors.
That got some last second buzz. Yeah, Russ back to the Thunder for like some really good shit. But I was just thinking, I mean, Russ is going to help them lose and they want to tank. But what? Maybe in the regular season he'll help them win some games. But I just don't see why any franchise would want to commit to Russ long term.
No, even next year makes like less sense. He's making $47 million next year.
Yeah, like, he's making even more next year.
Unless there's a team that is like, okay, we are just going to bottom out and we're going to clear cap space. And in 2023,
you think it was the Rockets, right? Who were rumored to be involved in a deal with us. Yeah.
The offensive thing is, do you want to how I only got like a text about an hour ago. Do you want to know how close it was towards the deal for John Wall for Russell Westbrook? It was John Wall and Christian Wood for Russell Westbrook, THT in a first.
That was the reported one recently, and I looked at that and I thought I would have taken that shit. I mean, I don't know.
Supposedly it was insane, and I mean, like, insanely close.
Because you get Christian Wood back, you get something useful back, as opposed to just straight Russ for Wall. Yeah, so what was it?
The main thing was that Christian Wood wanted an extension.
It's always that. It's literally always that whenever we're dealing with trades. It's the people want long-term money.
He didn't want to be playing third or fourth fiddle and then have to reignite the guy, basically go for a contract, and then realize that his contract value is less because he's playing a fourth option. He wanted basically an extension off the bat.
Everything is a lose-lose with these trades with the Lakers, man, because they don't want to pay out the long-term money. And I get it for flexibility. It's just better fucking pay off when they want to make big swings. They better be hitting home runs.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Last thing about the Ben Simmons thing, I think, in regards to Ben and his mental health and people piling onto him, I just think it's incredibly hypocritical, because I think these are the same people that would get ratioed on Twitter and would get absolutely shook by it. And they're being the ones who are just putting more negative shit onto Ben, and who was a person at the end of the day too. So, I mean, that goes for a lot of criticisms of athletes and just like criticisms online in general.
Yeah.
I was watching this, mentioned this on a pod when Phil came on, but I was watching this.
Shout out to Phil.
Shout out to Phil. He's doing good with the Late Night Lake Show. Yeah. It was a Netflix documentary about social media and its effects on the brain when you're on social media. Basically, being on social media, the combination of anonymity and, being able to say and do whatever the fuck you want without physical repercussions, that simulates your brain to being drunk, which is why you see crazy hot takes and you see crazy aggressive people that would never act like that in real life. It's fucking social media, man. And there's a larger discussion to be had on how should we be handling social media to create like a more like fair world where people treat each other more fucking nice. But then you also don't want to get into censorship too much. Yeah. Who the fuck knows where we're going to go with that? But that's just one note I had on Ben Simmons. The people that are just piling onto him are the same people that would get shook if they got ratioed on Twitter for some stupid shit. It's about like 8% of that the case. We've touched on a lot for this trade deadline, man. And I agree with you. I think at the end of the day, we're just fucked this year. Our window's closed for this year. And it's unfortunate because, you just never know with LeBron. You don't know if he's going to be the same MVP level type player next year. Knowing the way he does, I think he probably will be, but at like a fraction less.
I'd say if he's at 100% now, I'd say he's at 80% next year.
80?
Whereas,
I was thinking like 90.
Whereas, like, if he was 100% in his prime, I'd say he's 70% now. Again, like, LeBron is a unicorn. By the way, this is a fantastic joke. I think I said this to you earlier as well, about like when Kristaps Porzingis got like traded to the Wizards. People were saying like, "Oh, Kristaps Porzingis is a unicorn." I was like, "Yeah, because you hardly ever see him.
Because you can't see him because he doesn't exist."
Yeah,
yeah, that was a good one today.
That was amazing. But like, I think with LeBron is proving true that. Well, he's not proving true. He's kind of dismissing that time was undefeated. Like, he's still playing at an unbelievable level. But I think for any fan that's really looking, you're seeing the diminishing effects. You're seeing him, not his talent, but his athleticism disappearing like 1% at a time.
Again, his top gear is still there, but it's not there as much. Yeah. And he's not going to be able to access it as often in regular season games or even early playoff series. Like, even those, like, we always lose game ones. Yeah,
like it's disappearing. I think no person above else LeBron is going to be pissed about this year. LeBron realizes his own mortality. He realizes that his time in this league is less than it is more. I guarantee you, like, looking every time he looks at the box scores after a game, this guy is looking at this paper so intently because he doesn't want to look in your fucking eyes, because he wants to like go, fuck you, Russ, fuck you, AD, fuck you, Malik Monk, fuck you, everyone. I'm looking at this piece of paper so I don't have to look at your ass. Like, that's how like intently he's looking at this piece of paper. And again, it's disrespectful to LeBron that this is happening. But again, it's the bed you made. Like, LeBron was involved in these decisions. The decisions didn't go his way. We make his bed.
He's the one who brought the Russ deal to the table, man. That's on him.
Yeah, so next season, we'll see what happens. But again, like, LeBron, if he has to disappear from this kind of basketball career with 4 championships and 4 MVPs, there's a lot of fucking guys that left the league with less. So I know he's chasing he's chasing Jordan. He's not getting the 6. He's not. I'm sorry, like, with full respect, he's not getting the 6 championships unless he wins this season some way, somehow. He's not. And then after like 2 more seasons after this, he's not getting the 6 championships. It's not going to happen. He'll at best he'll match Kobe at 5 at best.
And it's going to take a miracle to get flip Russ for something that can build a championship. Like, a lot of variables are going to come into play.
But like, LeBron, above all, you made your bed. You have to sleep in it. Like, it's as simple as that right now. You made your bed.
Yeah, it's kind of comforting. I mean, because I'm of the idea that this was LeBron's fucking trade for Russ, and this is what he was pushing for. Yeah. I mean, Pelinka was the one who was like, no, let's keep our defense, let's keep our continuity. I mean, that gives me a little more faith, because that means he was then handled the Russ situation, was tried to make some gold out of it, which it's kind of hard to do. But this is his own bed, man. Like you said, he's got to lie in that shit. But I think that kind of wraps it up for the show, man. I think we had a good one. Glad you're able to come on and shed some light on, some backgrounds happening during the trade deadline.
Yeah, no problem at all. And again, I apologize. It's quite late over here, so I've got some hot takes in my brain. So yeah,
you got some late night crazy brain hot takes. You had to get them off, bro. I respect it.
Yeah, it's 20 to 1 o'clock in the morning right now. So after this pod, I'm going straight to bed.
It's 1 o'clock. Lakers made no moves at the trade deadline. Jonathan is sleep deprived, so this is a recipe for success today.
Yeah, or a disaster, whatever you want to call it.
All right, man. Really appreciate you hopping on. We'll talk again soon.
Anytime, man. Anytime. Thank you.
Later.